Hey, Steve Bignani standing here in Brimfield, Massachusetts on the side of the road. This isn't the junkyard crawl. Well, it's the roadside crawl. And this is something I found on the side of the road. This is a Ford 8N tractor. Now we have to remember that Ford in 1916 brought out its first tractor, the Ferguson, with the steel wheels, the cleats, pretty much indestructible tractor. Some say it had the Model T engine, not so fast. It had a flathead 4, but it was actually made by a company called Hercules for Ford. But that said, that was an antique piece. Well, for 1934, Alice Chalmers revolutionized the industry with pneumatic tires, getting rid of the iron wheels. And in 1939, Ford brought out the successor to the Ferguson, the 8N. This is an early example. This one has a variety of things that mark it as being a 39 through 46. For instance, we see it has 6 lug wheels on a large pattern. 1947, they went to an 8 lug pattern on a smaller circle. So again, these wheels here are 39 through 46 specific. And 39, 40, and 41 had this I-beam style radius rod. This became a tubular structure in 1942 beyond. Of course, it has the flathead 4-cylinder engine, which was standard fare in all of these things. And again, not a Model T or Model A engine. It was a cousin to those things, but that makes 22 horsepower. If you wanted more, a company called Funk Aviation sold 100 horsepower flathead V8 conversion kits for 8Ns. So if you wanted in 1952 through 55, you could get a Funk conversion, a flathead 8 with 100 horsepower, 5 times as much as the factory 4-banger if you wanted. You called Funk Aviation for that. Now this is an unusual little tractor. It does have factory headlights. These are not aftermarket. These are Ford options. And again, Ford had a variety of optional things, lots of them, that could be added to your 8N tractor. Now one thing about these is that the front wheels and the rear wheels are reversible on the hubs. You can see that by taking the outer rim and unbolting it and turning it, you can change the width by 4 inches. And beyond that, you can take the front track on this and go from 56 to 72 inches by means of the bolts and the axle. You take these, unbolt it, you can stretch this again from 54 to 72 inches, front and rear, and that allows you to accommodate the crop distance, the rows, the distance between the rows of your crops. And so it's a nice example of a Ford 8N. 1939 through 1954, these were in production, and Ford's only tractor. In 1955, the Jubilee series came along and was a whole different creature, but this was Ford's only type of tractor. Now, something that's kind of cool about this one is on the front. This little logo here says Ford, but below that, Ferguson System. Well, what is that? Well, a British man named Harry Ferguson devised something called 3-point hitching. Henry Ford licensed or borrowed, you choose, that technology. And the trouble is, with the early Ferguson tractors, like most tractors, when you hitch anything to the back, it was just a simple pull. Well, if you hit a rock with the thing you're pulling, the tractor would wheelie up and sometimes crush you. The Ferguson system got away from that problem with a 3-point hitch. Here at the back, we can see there are 3 areas where the implement is drawn. 1, 2, 3. And the beauty of the Ferguson system is that it has a spring and hydraulic load. So this actually can put a force downward into the implement being pulled. So no longer a need to put 800 pounds on the hoe or the plow. The Ferguson system could actually push down on it hydraulically and not increase the amount of load the tractor or implement had to carry. And beyond that, when the plow or the hoe or the rake hit an obstacle and stopped, it wouldn't pull the tractor up, over, and crush the driver. Now this is also equipped with a 3-speed manual transmission. There it is, 1, 2, 3, there it is. And it does have a springed seat right there. And these are major advances in tractor comfort, really. The early Fergusons had a metal seat, and in fact, many early tractors didn't have seats. You stood all day long at the back of your John Deere or your Alice Chalmers, and again, a seat on a tractor was something of a luxury at this point in time. But this is a 1939 or 40, as far as I can tell. It's an early example of an 8N tractor. And one thing, again, about tractors, really, again, is the pneumatic tires on the back of this, the rubber tires. Again, 1934, Alice Chalmers was the first mass-produced tractor to offer rubber tires. Before that, they had metal steel wheels with cleats on them, which were pretty much impossible to drive on the road. So getting from field to field, you were driving along, clunking along on steel wheels. But again, 1934, Alice Chalmers led the way. And of course, all 8Ns had rubber tires, with perhaps a small handful made for coal mining or whatever, which might have had the steel wheels still in place. But this is a great example of a little Ford tractor. Now, these are pretty collectible. People do restore these, and the beauty of these is that they don't really rust away that badly. You have so much cast iron that is, you know, an inch thick in many cases. This stuff will be around for 1,000 years. And the same goes for the fenders, the cowls, the covers. All these things are such heavy gauge metal that even if they do lose a third of their mass to rust, there's no holes, and they're easily restored. So that's the beauty of this. And again, there was a company, Funk Aviation, a flathead V8 in an 8N tractor from 1952 through 55. So that would go from 22 to 100 horsepower. And a fair number of those were sold. And Funk also sold conversion kits to put 6-cylinder truck engines in place of that flathead 4. And Ford also experimented with pushrod 4-cylinder engines toward the end of the 8N production in 52-34. So that's the story of the Ford 8N tractor found here on the side of the road at Classic Heaven in Brimfield, Massachusetts. So you always want to keep your eyes open. Sometimes you can find gold sitting right there in plain sight. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel.